In this video, we're going to use Python and the AWS boto3 library to generate a list of CIDR blocks that we are using in our VPCs. The scenario we're working against here is that we have a Terraform configuration and it's thrown an error. And the error is because we have tried to request a CIDR block that is already being used. So ideally, the code we're developing here, we could take it, put it into a Lambda function, run it to verify that that CIDR block is free, and then afterwards, if it is, run our Terraform code. First thing we're going to do is we're going to import boto3 and we're going to import prettyprint. The steps we're going to take are, first we're going to create a region list, then we're going to loop through those regions, then loop through the VPCs in each of those regions, and then while we're in there, create a list of the VPC CIDR blocks that are within each one of those VPCs. We are going to treat this kind of just like it's a normal AWS function, or AWS Lambda function. So we're going to use the Lambda handler, and we're going to enter it at the bottom with by calling Lambda handler. We're going to pass in the strings event and context. In this case, they're not going to be used, so just passing like empty variables that are needed so that this does not throw an error while it's being run in AWS. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a function, and it's going to be called getRegions. And we're going to create this function to get a list of regions. So first we're going to say define getRegions. Whoops. Define getRegions. And then we're going to say we're going to create an EC2 client object. And we do that by saying boto3 .client, and we're going to specify the EC2 service. This client object is just a low-level way of interfacing with the services that AWS offers. When we do that, and if we print EC2, we will see on the side of here that we are returned a botocore client EC2 object. And so from there, if we put in a dir on that object, we can see that it produces a bunch of methods and attributes that we can have access to. The one we want to run against this to find our regions is one called describe regions, and I don't see it right now, but it is in here. So we're going to say EC2 describe regions. We're going to assign it to a variable, and we're just going to call the variable regions. And then we're going to say print, and we're actually going to print the keys of the regions because it returns a dictionary. So we'll say prettyprint the keys. Let's come over here, just clear this screen. We're going to run it again, and we have a key of regions and a response metadata key. In this case, we're going to drill down and use this region key. And so we're going to go ahead and put it on the end of our regions variable here, just to get in a little bit deeper. So now if we type in prettyprint regions, let's do it. Let's see what we get. We get a ton of regions, and they're in dictionaries. And inside each of these dictionaries, there's a key called region name. So we're going to need to access that in order to get the value of the actual region name. So we're going to come back over here, and we're going to say, actually we're going to create a region list. Whoops. We're going to just make it an empty list for now. But we're going to loop through our regions, and we're going to say for region in regions, and we're going to just append it. Region list dot append. And we're going to say region, and I'm typing funny, region, and then we're going to run in the key region name. Afterwards, we're going to go ahead and say print region list, and hopefully everything will come out right. Let's look at it. And there it is. So there is our region list. We're going to go ahead and say return region list. And we will take this variable and we're going to assign it to this function up here. So we're going to paste it in, and we will assign it here. And so we're going to hide this little suite of code here. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to, let's look here. We created our regions. Now we got to loop through these regions in order to get our CIDR block. So we're just going to call this next function. We're going to call this next function get CIDRs. We'll just do that. Get CIDRs. So now we're going to go ahead and define our function get CIDRs, and we'll go ahead and copy it real quick, and we'll paste it in here. And the first thing we need to do is we need to loop through the regions, and to do that we need to pass this region list into this function. So we'll pass it in here, and it'll become an argument down in our function, and we'll start to loop through this region list. We'll say for region in region list. And we're going to say, now we're going to create another client object, EC2 client object. And I'm just going to call it this, just so it looks a little different. But in this case, every time we do it, we're going to pass this region as a keyword. So as we go through each of them, we're going to get a new client object that we can extract these CIDR blocks from. So let's clear that real quick. So we already looped through the regions. Let's just get rid of that. And we're going to say EC2 client is equal to boto3 client. Again, we need the EC2 service. And now we're going to pass in that region name key. And we're going to say its region name is equal to region. From here, we can go say print EC2 client and see what we get. And again, we get a bunch of Boto core clients that are coming through for each region. But we can say print, we can say print region. And as we run it again, it'll put all of our region names in front of every one of those objects. So we're going to clear that screen. We're going to now start to access the VPCs, which are inside of this client right here, much the way we did the get regions function there. So what we're going to do is we're going to say VPCs is equal to EC2 client dot describe VPCs, and then we're going to say print VPCs dot keys, just to see what's there. And when we do it, we get the key of VPC and response metadata. And since this thing has taken a while to loop through all of these regions, we're going to make a little change here. We're going to duplicate our region list. This one we're going to go ahead and comment it out, and on this one we are going to create just this one region list. So we're going to say US West 1. We'll save that. And now when we run through this thing, we should only just get the one, and it's working. So back down to our getting CIDRs function here. In this case, we need to drill in to our VPCs and use this key from this dictionary. So we're going to copy this. We're going to drill down a little bit further here. And now we're going to say just print the VPCs, and we'll see what we get. Let's clear this screen. We print it, and there indeed is our VPC. And inside our VPC, you can see we got CIDR blocks. We actually have a second CIDR block, so this one has 2 in it. So what we're going to do is we're going to copy this key now, and we're going to say we're going to loop through these VPCs, and we're going to say for VPC in VPCs. Oh yeah, and we're going to append. Okay, so hold on one second. We need to create a list for our CIDRs. So we're just going to call it CIDR list, and we're going to say it's equal to nothing. We just got to instantiate it. So we're going to say for VPC and VPCs, CIDR list dot append, and we're going to add VPC and then the key CIDR block. Come over here, we'll say, whoops, come over here, we'll say print, and see what we get. CIDR list. We'll run it. And there is our CIDR list right there. Let's clear it and do it one more time. So we got 2 CIDR blocks inside of this region right here, which is kind of cool to see. So now what we got to do is we got to run through all of them, all of our regions, and actually collect them into one place. So what we'll do is we'll declare a variable, or declare a list here, and we'll just call it all CIDRs. And we'll just say it's equal to an empty list. And then that way, at the end of this loop here, we can say all CIDRs dot append, and we're going to append it with our CIDR list here. So we'll say CIDR list, and it should add it to everything. We will go ahead and say return all CIDRs, and there it is. And in fact, we're going to take this all CIDRs variable, we're going to bring it back, and we're going to make it equal to the function that we just wrote there. We are now going to go ahead and we're going to go ahead, well, let's just test it and make sure it works real quick. So we're going to run it, and in fact it just printed out our region. And what happened here? All CIDRs. Let's see what happened here. We didn't even print it, so let's just do that. Print all CIDRs. So we'll print it, and indeed it did do it. Did print it, and it's a list within a list. So we're going to clear this. We're going to comment out the one region. We're going to use our function here that loops through all of our regions. We're going to save it, and we are going to run it one more time, and it's running through each one of the regions, and it's kind of nice. We can see it actually working. That one it's thinking on. Those must be further away, and we're near the bottom, so I may have to speed this up. And there we go. We got our CIDR block list for all of our regions returned right here. So we can come in here, clean up the rest of our code here. Let's see here. We'll get rid of that. We will go ahead and condense that just for now, just so we can make it look nicer. We're going to get rid of this guy right here, and things should look pretty good. We're going to go ahead and say pretty print that, and you know what we're going to do? We're going to remove this guy right here, just so we're a little bit tightened up, and we will run it one more time. And there we go. There is our list of CIDR addresses. We'll go ahead and take this one step further, and we will return a dictionary that pairs the regions with the CIDR blocks. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and we'll create a dictionary. We'll call it CIDR dict, and we'll just say is equal to nothing. We'll go ahead and duplicate this 3 times. And we're going to pass the region name first. So we'll say name, and we'll go ahead and add region. And then on this one, we'll go ahead and we'll add the actual CIDR list. And so we'll say CIDR list. Whoops. And we will call this one CIDR block. And we will then say, well, actually, all CIDRs, we will say, we will append our CIDR dict, and that should turn out a little better. And up here, we'll go ahead and print it, but afterwards we'll say return CIDRs. All right, let's run this thing one more time, see if it works. This will take a second to go through all the regions, but in the end we should have a dictionary that is returned and is a little bit tighter thing to return. All right, so here we go. We now have our dictionary, or I'm sorry, our list with a dictionary identifying each of our regions with their CIDR blocks. There we go. Thanks.